Good morning, good afternoon, good evening, folks. Michael Zuber, one rental at a time, back with bonus episode number 4 with the Lumberjack. How you doing, buddy?
I'm doing super awesome. Honestly, that's a lot of data we covered in those first three. That's a
Yeah.
lot.
For topic number 4, I actually want to go back to something we talked about briefly in episode 1 when we were talking about reventure. And I actually highlighted that I sold all my houses, right? There was a time in my 21-year career where I felt it was the right time to sell everything. And I don't know that a lot of people realize that I did that. And I called it. And oh, by the way, since then, there was a time when I was selling my apartments because I thought they were overpriced. And I do think there are times real estate is overpriced and I will sell. I'm not a buy and hold forever. Now, when I write an offer, my intention is to hold forever. But as I've said many times, if you want to overpay for anything that I own, you can have it. So I thought we should go back and revisit that.
Yeah, I mean, I think that I think what a lot of people don't understand about buy and hold real estate is that you don't hold it forever. It's you buy it with the intention of holding it. You hold it as long as it's a strong asset. You know, guys like Chris Crone and guys like that, he actually drops properties between 7 and 8 years old.
Oh,
because he's like, I don't want to do any of the major maintenance. I don't want to do the roofs. I don't want to do heating systems. I don't want to do that stuff. So after I've done one, I'll use it as a rental for 5, 6, 7, 8 years. Then I get rid of it. And so for me, it's not really my strategy, but I sold my first duplex ever last year. I never sell duplexes, but I did it because the market was telling me to. So I know that for you, when you had that, you know, kind of walk me through your thought process, because I only sold 2 things last year. I sold my next to last single family because the other one has some hair on it and some situations to it that I couldn't just sell it at that point.
Right.
Although, as we talked about a couple of weeks ago in that episode, it's actually going on the market in 2 weeks.
Yeah. Cool.
So talk to me through your process of, hey, you've got 7 single family homes in a duplex. And you're starting to see some, you know, some things moving and some cracks. What kind of walk me through that decision process? Because there might be people in the same boat today.
Yeah, this is why it's important. Because again, I do think there is a time you sell. And let's be clear, exchange, right? I did a 1031 exchange. But again, you have to sell first, right?
Right.
So it's probably late 2005. I'm still very much a newbie real estate investor. The first 7 transactions or 8 transactions are great. They're all cash flowing, a little bit less on the last one than the first one, just because prices are up. Right. And I'm looking around for my next deal. And at this point, prices are stupid, but I didn't know they were stupid.
Right.
I just knew that I couldn't get cash flow on a 30-year mortgage. Now, if you know the story of the Great Recession or with the buildup to it, a lot of people got around that by doing these 2 and 28 loans, 2 years at 1.9% that then changes to 7.9. I never wanted anything but 30-year money. I just didn't want that risk. It didn't feel right. And thank God.
Yeah, right.
Thank God it didn't feel right. So we were looking around for, I don't know, 6 or 7 months. Cause again, I have focus. I have a buy box. I look at it every day. It's the same thing I do today. I was doing back then. And then I go to a real estate meetup. Again, I go to real estate meetups all the time. You just never know where you're going to get that one gem. I hear Bruce Norris, who used to be a Southern California investor who has since moved to Florida. He talked about the upcoming crash, which I only thought real estate went up. Right. Unless you were in Houston for the oil, because I'd done all these readings, right? Oil crash in the 70s, SNL, when they changed the tax treatment. I knew a crash was theoretically possible, but didn't see one coming. So then he introduces me to this term called affordability index, which I knew nothing about, totally naive. He goes on to show chart after chart after chart. He's a data guy, right? He's just chart. And I'm like, all right, I got to go figure out the affordability index for Fresno, California. Thankfully,
but he's actually good with data.
Oh, he's awesome, dude. Yeah. This guy's not a 3 chart guy. This guy, he does reports with 380 charts. It's like just insane. Like, I love numbers and even my eyes gloss over.
The amount of wind coming off of people's propellers on the top of their hats in that conference must have been
Yeah, he's a legend. If you haven't looked up the Norris Group yet,
Oh, I have.
yeah, you're
He
missing out.
is
He's
spectacular.
he's the man.
Yeah.
He's the only, actually now I've done twice. I actually paid to go see him speak at a weekend event. Hundreds of dollars. I went to go see him because I had to go pay my respect, right? You saved Olivia and I. Here's $1,000. I want to go shake your hand and get a picture. I'm like, damn, dude. Anyways, I did that. I went, it was in Sacramento. Anyways, I did that. So again, affordability index. I'm lucky enough in California. It's right there at california.org, right? California Association of Realtors. It's car.org. And sure enough, Fresno, California is a major MSA. And at the time it was monthly. They now do it quarterly. I go on to see that the affordability index in Fresno, California has precipitously dropped from where it was in the 60s down to the low 20s. And then I go back and look at the last 40 years and go, holy shit, I think he's right.
Yeah.
How this, it can't go any lower, right? Just mathematically speaking. And this is where my head kicks in. Oh, the 2 and 28s, and we're getting off. And then, I'm turning down tenants as tenants because they don't make enough income. And then they're buying a home. I'm like, this can't end well. So that was a sign. We did one 1031 exchange, Norris Drive, which I've talked about a lot. And then that worked out well. We still have that apartment that we bought with that money. And very quickly after Norris Drive was done, it was kind of a test, right? Because 1031, never done one, didn't know anything about commercial lending, all of that stuff. It worked out. And we very quickly sold everything else. And we went from 8 units to 80 in about a 13 or 14 month period. Again, there are times you have to sell. There are times it's a bubble. For me, it is very clear. It's 100% the affordability index. I look at it every quarter. That's now when it's report because it doesn't move that much. I expect the affordability index to go down because rates have shot up. And if affordability in my market goes below 25, I will start selling. And if it goes below 20, I'll sell everything. So I do think there's a time to sell. It's certainly a time to sell a single family home. So that's the kind of story. And again, I exchanged, so I didn't pay the tax man. And again, just so we're clear, I did sell apartments in 19, right? Because I thought we were going into a recession. It turns out if I would have kept them a couple of years, I made a lot more money, but who would have guessed a pandemic was coming? And then I sold a troubled triplex this last year. And I just paid the tax man. Sometimes you got to sell a problem property. So I do think there are times you sell. I do think you can predict the top, or at least be close. We were early. I sold Norris Drive for 264. It goes all the way up to 300. So I left 10% in the property, but it ultimately retrades after it's foreclosed at 75. So I avoided a quite large drop. So yeah, I do think there's times to sell.
If you'd only watched Reventure and you paid him $5 in a super chat, he could have told you not to sell that stuff. So the second thing is, what's really interesting is that the one sign that I had when I thought the market was going to get wonky was I could not get a high credit score renter anymore.
Yeah.
Everybody that I got, the pool was horrible. It was a pool that was full of pee and Band-Aids. It was a horrible pool of renters. And so I saw that happening kind of in 07 and then beginning of 08. And again, I only have 8 units at that point. But the people that I rented out to were markedly less qualified than the people that I rented out to the previous year. And I mean, I had units on the market for 2 months where I had a ton of showings, and it was like everybody had a 570, 580 credit score or a 610. And then finally, when somebody pops with a 630, and I'm like, okay, that's not really good enough to buy a house right now, or kind of is, but they're going to, you're going to actually also have to have a pretty decent job income wise. They're not taking you on at 50% debt to income like I am. It's upset everything. And so I had to get worse renters. That's why in August of 08, I had 8 people paying rent. In September, I had 3. In October, I had 1.
Oh,
that's how that went. And that's the way that it went, was because they were people that didn't care about their credit. They were spending their money on other stuff. I literally remember showing up at the guy's house to get the rent check, and he was the month behind plus the month that he owed for that month. And I literally knock on the door and he comes to the door and 2 dogs come rushing out at me. No dogs allowed on the lease. 2 dogs came rushing at me and they were Cocker Spaniel purebred puppies.
Mm.
And I'm like, how can you afford those when you're late on rent?
Mm.
And they just didn't care. They wanted what they wanted. So at the end of the day,
Yeah.
I agree with you. There is absolutely a time to sell. When you see the last 6 months reading of our affordability index are 7, 4, 1, 2, 1, 3.
Mm. Yeah.
Like it's so we've sold every single family we have except for the one, and the one that we still have is still going on the market because it's unaffordable. It's single family homes are unaffordable in this market right now.
Yeah. Very cool, man. I appreciate you. Where can people find you?
Lumberjack Landlord on YouTube, Lumberjack Landlord on Instagram, and then our awesome live stream on Sundays at 11:30 a.m. Eastern time.
Awesome. Thanks, buddy.
Thanks, Mike.